Excellent. And let's start. So we are just, let me remind you that we are in the last block. This is about ecosystem services. It's split to two parts. We have a first part behind us and the second. Let's start with presentation by Davina Vačkářová. And the title, and this is about the project One Nature. And the title is Participatory Assessment of Nature's Contribution to People in Natura 2000 Case Studies. So Davina, up to you, you have 20 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Michal. Good afternoon, hello. I am aware that it has been a long day, but hopefully you can still absorb one or more, three presentations actually. And hopefully we can still provide some interesting insights concerning One Nature project. So this is, my talk is focusing on case studies. It's one of the sub-activities in the projects where we performed some participatory assessment of nature's contributions to people. So I'm adding another level of complexity to ecosystem service assessment. I will come to this later. So actually, what was aim of our case studies? First, we wanted to test applicability of nature's contributions to people or ecosystem services concept in the practice. So actually, we wanted to see how it can be used or applied in stakeholder practice and nature conservation. So therefore, we focused primarily on protected areas, on Natura 2000, of course. And we wanted to see how local actors perceive nature's contributions to people. Another aim was to focus on so-called trade-offs and synergies. So, because of course, in the landscape, decision makers face some complex challenges about conflicts and selecting various options, and this is where concept of ecosystem services or nature's contributions to people can help. And finally, that's actually one of the reasons why we use nature's contributions to people, which is one of the current conceptual developments in the discourse on ecosystem services, is that it tries to recognize diverse and plural perspectives of various people, users of landscape, and stakeholders. So I am adding, you already heard about the biophysical basis, about bioeconomic modeling, and I am adding a layer of so-called socio-cultural assessment. And also the nature's contributions to people concept is challenging that ecosystem services would be only about economic values or related things, but that it's also about how people see the values of nature. So, this is actually the classification of the so-called nature's contributions of people. Are you somehow familiar with the concept? Who heard about nature's contributions to people, NCP concept? So this is, and who heard about ecosystem services, except this workshop, of course? Okay, so actually nature's contributions to people are a concept which is now used by International Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, IPBS. And so this is one of the key terms in international policy area, right? So IPBS is now preferring this term from the reasons I already said. So to be honest, we use it interchangeably, but NCP tries to strengthen these plural values of nature and a role of various people in this. So this can be classified as material, regulating, non-material. Of course, we We included almost all except one, which is unfortunately not so relevant in Czechia. This is ocean acidification regulation. But you can see that, of course, material is food and materials and energy and medicinal resources, and non-material, sometimes called cultural, learning, inspiration, physical and psychological experiences. This means actually something like recreation, relaxation in nature, aesthetics. Supporting identity is also important contribution. And regulating, it's all these broad group of benefits which nature provides us, and you heard about this in previous presentations, I think. What is interesting on this framework is this bottom box, maintenance of options, which is kind of cross-cutting value or benefit or contribution or service, which means that we also want to maintain the future options for future generations, and some like benefits of generations to come. So what was also unique on our case studies was that we wanted to work systematically with the stakeholders, and that we performed something we call iterative participatory assessment. That means that wasn't one-off event, but we actually did like several consecutive events. So we held actually 12 participatory workshops between 22 and 24 in 3 case studies areas. These were protected landscape areas, Natura 2000 sites. You can see the location on the map. It's Třeboňsko, Křivoklánsko, Slovakovský les. You could ask how these were selected, because there's of course much more protected areas in Czechia, but it also reflected some consultation process with the Nature Conservation Agency, so it's not just random, believe me. And we decided to hold 4 workshops in each location, so that counts to 12. Logically, and of course this reflected design of our study. And on this slide you can see just timeline of our workshop. So we started in spring 22. In workshop 1 we focused on which benefits nature provides in the area. So this was we have a frame question for each of the workshops. I will get to methods shortly. In workshops 2, we were interested to see how these where the benefits occur and how they interact. So we added spatial perspective and interactions among nature contributions to people. Then in workshop 3, we focused on the perspectives of various stakeholders, so how they see their role actually, to say it simply. And in the last workshop, it was like more conclusive workshop, how to use the concept, how to utilize, protect benefits nature provides, and maybe how to use it in decision making. So concerning the use methods, we use broader range of methods. I will show you some examples on the next slide, but we can summarize in 3 major approaches, which are preference assessment. So it's kind of social, cultural assessments, ranking, prioritization. Then we use focus groups. For example, that's probably you all have some experience with this kind of stakeholder involvement, where stakeholders discuss in groups. It's sometimes we try to create something what is called deliberation, that stakeholders exchange their views, deliberate on various topics, try to find agreement or moderate some disagreement. We use, for example, word cafe approach. And then there were also some elements of participatory mapping that we used, some maps which I will show you. So concerning the method, you can see on this picture on the left upper corner, we used something called IPBS game, which is actually a card game developed to support discussion of these nature's contributions of people. So each card represents each contribution or service. And so we use it for some ranking or prioritization. What are the most important NCPs in the area? So this was actually interesting exercise, and it worked well actually to facilitate this by these colored cards, and all the participants were relatively quickly quite familiar with this, and I think they enjoy it. Not sure with the next exercise, which was used in the second workshop. I am glad that previous colleague from Cyprus talked about ecosystem service matrix, and we try to test this matrix at the local level. So this is actually a table where participants assign some scores according to the importance of various NCPs. And then we used some worksheets or like various materials and questionnaires on governance, and that's it. These are just examples of the matrix. This is actually, we also were interested how nature's contributions to people interact. So we were not only interested what's their importance, what's their location, but also what's their interaction. So we used also this so-called interaction matrix, and you can see these plus or minus or zero signs reflect the interactions among various services. And so we combined something like semi-quantitative information, and also you can see the picture of from one of the flip charts that we also process the qualitative information recorded from the discussions, right? And you can see on the picture, you can see also the map which was used during the workshops. So concerning the participant structure, in this table you can see the numbers of participants in the workshop. Of course, we aimed for like we wanted to have represented all key stakeholder groups. Of course, if you have experience with such workshops, you know that it's not so easy, and some groups of stakeholders are not visiting this type of workshops because, of course, our workshop was like biased towards nature conservation. But finally, I think we've got some more or less good balance. You can see on the chart that they were representatives of forestry, agriculture, government, municipalities, NGOs, business. Sorry for the colors. In my original presentation, they were different. There were some representatives of local businesses or even national businesses, fishery and hunting, mining, and of course academia. If you look at the table like in more detail, you can see that the numbers of participants are like fading out towards the end of the workshops. So there is necessary in some like iterative activities, there are necessary some decay, and it's called so-called stakeholder fatigue, that some stakeholders just, for them it's enough to visit one workshops or two, and of course these numbers are like, you can see that they are declining from the first workshops to the last. We try to motivate participants to participate. Of course, they received, of course, some refreshment and lunch. For some, maybe good motivation. We try to incorporate some lectures, for example, by wildlife photographer or some interesting local important person. We also incorporated outdoor visits on the site where they were guided by the local expert, and participants could discuss the context of nature's contributions to people directly in the field. But still, yeah, and finally we prepared a special award for participants who visited all 4 workshops, which was really huge achievement, I think. So I just would like to show you some selected results. Of course, I could, that was relatively, we have a lot of results actually, so I will focus on just most important or illustrative results. So this chart shows the preference for most important nature's contributions to people in areas. You can see, of course, the total number of points, and colors differentiate different areas. Sorry, I don't know why it's, I think it was green in my, I don't know why it's white there in the chart, probably some graphics, I don't know. So maybe just to highlight some interesting findings, like the most important nature contributions to people or service was seen habitat creation and maintenance, which kind of makes sense because it was like mainly people interested in protecting nature or in sustainability. Other interesting thing is that relatively highly ranked so-called non-material or cultural services. So you can see learning and inspiration, maintenance of options, supporting identities. These are all ranking relatively high. And of course, regulation benefits are kind of perceived as important. What is interesting that materials rank 4th. So it's like material provisioning service. I think this also illustrates the applicability of the concept because, of course, very often we want some balanced use of ecosystems and land, and we want to hear or reflect all perspectives. So if there are, for example, some local farmers or our forestry, of course, ecosystems provide also materials, but we also want them to provide some other benefits. So, as I mentioned, our aim was to see also the location or map of different nature's contributions to people. Should I end? Sorry, so I will try to be fast. This is also something which was already mentioned, like what are the hotspots and cold spots of various services, like overlaps, and I am sorry that I have to skip this probably, but I just wanted to illustrate different trade-offs which actors perceive as important. This is just to illustrate that they differ between the areas, but the most common trade-offs were between material provision and regulation of fresh water. So trade-off is kind of conflicting demand on nature, right? That provision of one contribution decreases provision of another. So material logically are the most common type of trade-off with regulation or habitat creation. What was interesting that one of the most common trade-off was between recreation or experience and habitat creation and maintenance, which of course makes sense in protected areas. We also ask about the influence on nature contribution. So this probably you can. We prepared some materials. Unfortunately, some of them are only in Czech, but we hopefully will have something in English also. So we prepared some summary publication for stakeholders about the main results, and there is also a special leaflet about the participatory assessment of ecosystem services or nature's contributions to people. So thank you for attention, and sorry for long presentation.
Thank you, Davina. You are somehow in time, so on time, so this is not a problem. So we have a space for comments or questions. And if you don't ask, I can just comment, because more or less 10 years ago we made something like a participatory assessment in Montenegro together with Davina in some very specific locality. It was Salina, and it was very powerful because the local community really helped us to identify what is the most important set of ecosystem services for them. And it was, in my view, much more accurate than the scientific assessment based on some valuation transfer methods.
No, I think it was I remember this. This was nice example how to facilitate stakeholder dialogue through ecosystem services. But this was we have been using scenarios, which is another story. Here we have not been using scenarios.
So thank you very much once again. And we continue with presentation also from one nature project, and the speaker will be Daněk, and the topic is National Platform and Implementation of the Ecosystem Services Framework. So, Jan, floor is yours.
Thank you for introduction. Good afternoon. In this presentation, I would like to introduce our national platform and related implementation of the ecosystem services framework. In the beginning, I would like to briefly talk about the context in which our activities happened. We did a few studies focused on assessing whether and how is the ecosystem services framework implemented in the Czech Republic. And we can say that in the national environmental policies, the ecosystem services were implemented relatively well. They were in all key important nature protection, biodiversity protection, landscape protection, environmental policies. But the actual uptake in decision-making and practice was relatively poor. There are a few examples in some kinds of strategic planning or, of course, research projects. What we identified in these studies as key barriers for uptake of ecosystem services were mainly insufficient knowledge, insufficient capacities, missing methodologies or incompatible legislation, and also difficulty of the assessment or inconsistency in methods. You already heard about those things already. Nevertheless, the stakeholders which we approached, most of them perceived the framework as potentially useful in their practice. We also knew from the literature that stakeholder participation can increase the relevance of the knowledge gained and its practical applicability. And what we also knew is that this framework can work very well as a transdisciplinary boundary object. That means a framework, a tool which can put together different types of actors, stakeholders, institutions, and they can talk about topics with the use of this framework. So in this context, we started our activities in 2019. We call them, we engaged stakeholders in consultations. It had 3 stages. We combined stakeholder analysis, interviews. We did 6 participatory workshops. And we engaged key national or regional actors for ecosystem services in Natura 2000 network, and we aimed at two main things. First, we wanted to tailor the ecosystem services assessment to the needs of target users. We were asking them what ecosystem services should we focus on, how we should do our assessment so it would be really useful for you. And the other thing was that we wanted to engage these key actors to create conditions to build this national science policy interface. I don't have time to talk about the results, but recently we got the paper accepted in Ecosystem Services Journal, so in a few weeks it will be available, so you can read about more details and results of these consultations. And these consultations, they led to the establishment of our national platform, which was established in 2022 with more than 50 institutions. It is a science policy and practice interface in ecosystem services with the main aim to support integration of ecosystem services knowledge in policy and decision making. In this picture you can see key milestones which happened so far and which are also still planned. So after those 3 years of consultations, each year we had one meeting of this national platform. Now we had 4 meetings. The fifth is planned at the end of this year, and this year in May we are also organizing a special session focused on national platforms and focused on implementation of this framework at the Ecosystem Services Partnership Conference, which will take place here in Prague in May. Here you can see the list of members of our platform divided into some sectors or kind of sectors. So you can see we have institutions from nature protection, agriculture, forestry, water management, municipalities and regions. We have NGOs, we have academia, and we have also some others which do not tightly fit into one of these categories. I cannot say that all those institutions are actively participating, but most of them participated in at least one or more of our meetings of the platform. Here you can see a picture from the last meeting in May last year. The room was quite full, more than 50 participants. And what we do on these meetings, we have regular teams. We talk about news, what is new in ecosystem services field. For example, on the upper right picture, you can see presentation about the current IBBES assessments. We also talk about examples of ecosystem services assessments. We have presentations about various types of assessments. And we also have specific teams which so far were somehow related to implementation of this framework. And what we also think is important, we have some participatory elements. We engage the participants in roundtable discussions. We also ask them to present their projects, their topics, what they are focusing on in their institutions. And we also collect some data in evaluation surveys which serve as input for planning of the next meetings. After 4 years of functioning of this platform, we can say that the exchange of information is totally essential. As I mentioned, we talk about current or finished projects, talk about relevant policies or legislation. For example, at the last 2 meetings, we had representatives of Ministry of Agriculture who were presented current drafts of payments for ecosystem services. We also see that the framework is really working as a boundary object and that the participants appreciated this opportunity to meet and discuss with people from institutions which they would not normally meet. And we think it is important to try to build a common understanding. So that's why we talk about how we can assess or evaluate ecosystem services or how such results can be implemented. And there is a really high demand about these examples of assessments or implementation. We see it from the surveys and from the feedback of the participants. So we can say that this platform is kind of informal, yet institutionalized gathering of a wide variety of stakeholders from public, private and non-profit sectors who can share their experience and as you can say, example of a quote of one of the participants, they do value this space, which is kind of a unique thing. As we are reaching the end of the project, we were also interested whether and how the knowledge about ecosystem services has developed, and this is maybe a little answer to one of the questions earlier before the lunch about the impact of the One Nature project. So we asked at the last meeting participants whether their understanding of the framework has changed over the last years, and of course we are interested whether the activities of the national platform or the project itself contributed to this change. And as you can see on the graph, most participants reported that there was a change, and some of them explicitly attributed this change to the national platform or the One Nature project in general. As there is limited time, I would just to show you at least one example of result or output of our roundtable discussions from the national platform. So in this table, you can see we asked the participants how they rate their current implementation of the framework at their institution. And again, we asked whether there was a attribution of One Nature project, whether it played a role in achieving this level of impact. You can see in the columns from left to right the levels of impact from the lowest one, co-producing knowledge, to the highest, producing actual outcomes in ecosystems. It is empty. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. It happens, but not explicitly with the using of the ecosystem services framework. So in this table, you can see institutions which reported that at their institution they have this level of impact, and in the brackets there is whether a national platform or the movie or the One Nature project in general contributed to this level of impact. So even though mostly we are in the left two columns, which is co-producing knowledge and conceptual use, there are already examples of strategic use and instrumental use of this framework in a few institutions. What about the future? As the project One Nature is ending and we are the platform is functioning, is financed from the project, we are now thinking how to make sure it will run in the long term, how to make sure it will happen also in the next years. So we are happy that recently a new biodiversity national strategy in the Czech Republic has been adopted, and that it includes explicitly the national platform. It's included in one of the targets to ensure support for the functioning of this platform. And we can see that the continuous engagement of a wide range of actors confirms the need for a functional science policy interface, which can facilitate the exchange of knowledge and support the implementation of ecosystem services in various policies and institutions. And it could also help to overcome traditional silo boundaries between disciplines and sectors. So among the future challenges, there is of course this funding and capacities. Of course, we would also, or the actors would like to see more practical outcomes. There could be more active role of members itself or the Ministry of Environment. But we feel that there is a good momentum, that we have this platform, the institutions are interested, they do participate. So we will try to make use of it. So to sum it up, the ecosystem services in practice, its implementation can take many different forms. There is a gap between a huge amount of scientific knowledge and its actual uptake in practice, and it's not just the case of Czech Republic. We just have the data because we did a few studies on it. However, we see that the actors are interested and they see potential in the use of this framework. We see the importance of a national platform as a functional science policy interface because the actors are interested, the feedback is good, but we need to ensure the long-term functionality of the platform. We also see that the framework is living kind of its own life. As I mentioned, the example about the payments for ecosystem services, which is drafted solely by the Ministry of Agriculture. And we can say that the participation is key for ecosystem services assessment and increasing its impact in policy decision-making and practice, but also for a well-functioning science policy interface. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jan, for a clear presentation. So, do you have any questions? Because I think this platform is quite unique, developed under the project. Yeah, there is one.
Yes, I want to ask you.
There is a mic.
I want to ask you how you build the group of participants and if it's obligatory to be there or what, because we try something in our region, it's a problem because we still are not able to build something. So I want to ask you how you build it.
We invested 3 years of consultations where we engaged these actors and we invited them either for interview or for participatory seminars. And of course, it's not obligatory. It's totally voluntary. And I don't know. So about how we build, I again can point you to the article which will soon be published in Ecosystem Services Journal, so you can see the details on the methodology and the engagement of actors. And I think. Now I have question in my mind why they attended relatively well, and there's actually an increasing rate of attendance. We will see at the end of this year if it's still so popular. I don't know. I guess there are many factors which can play a role in this.
Thank you, and hopefully they will be active after the project is completed. Thank you once more again, Jan. And we have the last presentation from one nature project. This is public perception of protected areas in the Czech Republic, and the presenter is Jakub Jehlička. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay. So that's my presentation. Oh yeah, got it. Yeah. Okay. So this is the last presentation on the One Nature project, and I'll talk about a survey on public perception of protected areas in the Czech Republic that we carried out as part of an activity of the project that focused on socio-economic impacts of the project. As you know, the project focuses on Natura 2000 sites, but our survey was not only focused on Natura 2000 sites, but also other types of protected areas. That's because, well, firstly, many Natura 2000 sites will overlap with other types of protected areas, and secondly, well, the public awareness of Natura 2000 system is not very high, so people relate more to other types of protected areas that are closer to them. That's actually one of the outcomes of our survey too. So that's one of the closing points. So I could just stop here with this finding, but I also would like to talk to you about what happens in between. So hopefully, yeah, yeah. So. Why bother? Why focus on public perception of protected areas at all? Well, in Europe at least, nature conservation has historically been the primary motivator behind the existence of protected areas. But there are also other interests. Apart from nature conservation and nature protection that take place in protected areas, the interests of other stakeholders, and lately we have seen these conflicts between these interests more pronounced and more present in public discourse in the Czech Republic. Interests of agriculture, industry, energy, infrastructure, transportation, tourism, and even conflicting views of how to manage landscape in protected areas. And also, in the context of Central and Eastern Europe, there are some default negative sentiments towards any kind of state regulation, including state-level nature protection. So that's other thing that kind of adds to this atmosphere of conflict about nature protection and protected areas in the Czech Republic, and also in the context of Central and Eastern Europe and beyond. But also public support is, at least in democratic societies, crucial for maintaining protected areas. What are the factors that influence support for protected areas? From previous research, we know that people's attitudes towards environmental issues and some broader values and beliefs play a role. Also concepts from environmental psychology like place attachment have been applied in surveys of public perception of protected areas. We also know that perception of benefits from the existence of protected areas are related to support from protected areas, and as well as trust in institution. Again, something that we assume is quite low in the Czech context, and thus it might be one of the major drivers of support. And well, of course, it differs for different kinds of people. The research so far focused mostly on people who reside in protected areas, and other types of stakeholders are mostly omitted. Also, the majority of studies are from countries from Africa and Southeast Asia, and the Central European area is underrepresented and understudied. Few studies use multivariate methods. Many studies only focus on simple relationships. And also, majority of studies are case studies from single protected areas. And so we decided to widen the context to include multiple factors, use multivariate methods, and focus on the interrelations between multiple factors. We wanted to, as I already mentioned, include a diversity of types of protected areas and also various populations, multiple group of stakeholders, not only the residents, but also visitors, farmers, and so on and so on. So what are the factors that we included into our survey that we expect and hypothesize to influence support for protected areas? This simple diagram shows the expected relationships between the studied factors and support for nature conservation in protected areas. So we can group the factors into several categories. One of them are attitudes towards protected areas, including perception of benefits, which we measured using multiple items, and some of them come from existing classifications of ecosystem services. Also, independent scale of the perception of losses, support for nature conservation in protected areas. The other type of factors include various types of interaction of people with protected areas, knowledge about protected areas, and also how often people communicate with management of protected areas and what kind of information they have about protected areas. And there are also types of relationship with protected areas, and these represent the stakeholder groups that I mentioned. So we looked at people who worked, whose work related to the protected area, be it land management like agriculture or forestry, or hospitality, and some other kinds of economic activity in protected areas. Then residents, people who visit protected areas regularly, and then occasional visitors of protected areas. And also there are general attitudes, as I mentioned, place attachment, general support for nature conservation, and then we measured environmental identity and a couple of other measures. So our sample consisted of 40 areas that were selected as protected areas larger than 40 square kilometer, which corresponds to the size of the smallest large-scale protected area, which is an arbitrary threshold, but we could not include many scores of protected areas. So we ended up with 40. And we collected data from more than 1,500 subjects, and this sample was representative of Czech population in terms of multiple variables. So, results. If you recall, the hypothesized relationship between the factors. So these are the results. I will summarize that, and then I can go back to the diagram if you like. So what we found out is that the mediation pathway between the objective relationship to protected area and the overall support for nature protection in the protected areas leads through communication with protected area management and information about protected areas, which, well, of course, is closely connected to knowledge about protected areas, which in turn is related to the perception of benefits from the existence of protected areas, which then is significantly related to the degree of support for nature protection. But what we also have seen is that the general attitudes towards environmental issues is in fact a stronger influencing driver of support for nature conservation in protected areas. That is the environmental identity purple circle in the left bottom part of the diagram. So we can see that environmental identity is a key driver that influences the perception of benefits as well as perception of losses and increases support. We also have seen that the different roles, different stakeholder groups have different degrees of communication with protected area management, but in general, the level of communication with protected areas was very, very low. So the total effect of this mediation path from communication to knowledge to benefits and to support was significant but quite weak compared to the pathway through information, knowledge, benefits and support, and that also compares to environmental identity and its effect on protection, on support to protection. So to conclude, we explored public support for protected areas, and we find out that the support in general was relatively high, with some variation across groups. We have seen that residents scored the lowest among the stakeholder groups compared to other groups. We have seen that perceived benefits are the key thing of behind the support for nature conservation, and we also, which is interesting, we observed that attitudes are not really straightforward because people simultaneously perceive benefits and also the limitations coming from the existence of protected areas. So it's not like a trade-off, and we can see that people who value the benefits are also, maybe also really critical about the limitations. But that does not necessarily mean that their support will be lower. Knowledge and awareness shape perception of benefits, but they do not directly increase support, and the general pro-environmental attitudes are relatively stronger predictor that is maybe at least in the context of our model, maybe more important than some particular factors that are related to the specific experience with the protected area. And thank you.
Thank you. And now there is a space for your questions. There is one. And the second.
Hi. Thank you for the presentation. I'm wondering, have you, during all these processes, did you use or take use of, I don't know, professional mediators, facilitators, something like this, like external professionals in communication in order to facilitate all these communication steps? Thank you.
Yeah, the survey data consisted of online questionnaire responses and then on-site questionnaires. So we did not facilitate some qualitative responses from the subject. So it's purely quantitative questionnaire data.
Thank you for a very interesting presentation, and I want to ask about two things, because from the results, for me, it was quite clear that raising awareness and growing knowledge is not like a simple way to enhance support. So that is a little bit counterintuitive to our efforts to spread the knowledge and educational campaigns. But the other conclusion that came to my mind, maybe it is far-fetched, that is that we have to start very early, because we have to shape those pro-environmental attitudes from the very early beginning. So more reflections than questions, but whether you think on following the results with some kind of recommendation or, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's my impression too, exactly as you say. But for me, what's interesting and important from these results is that now we have some evidence of this gap between people who are inclined towards environmental, who are positively inclined toward environmental issues, and they are also more easily shaped by campaigns and information. And then there is the other group, which is not necessarily large. That's the other thing, which is immune towards the information campaigns. For me, this really requires more research that would focus on this distinction, that would apply some more appropriate and even qualitative methodology to address this, to really talk to people to see if there is any room to improvement, or if people are negatively inclined. That's the end of the story. Yeah.
Thank you. One more question. So the last one, I ask Alexandra to share microphone.
Thank you. We did a survey for forest owners and asked them questions regarding small like micro reserves, and our data showed that smaller forest owners, women, those and also those who do not have forestry education have more positive attitude towards nature conservation measures. Maybe you can comment education, maybe size of properties, and maybe gender, if you just have in mind.
Yeah, thank you. We have seen a number of interesting, relationships between the demographic variables as well. They are not in the model, as it captures the major and the most significant, pathways between the factors. But actually, this is still an ongoing analysis. The data are really complex, and we would love to get to the more finer-grained aspects of the data as soon as possible, but that's not what we have yet analyzed yet.
Thank you, Jakub, for excellent presentation. And we have the last presentation in this block as well as in this conference, today's conference, and I would like to invite Michal Šutriepka from Slovak Nature Conservancy Agency, or State Nature Conservancy.
I'm from the Ministry of...
But you are from the Ministry, sorry, because your colleague that didn't come, he's from the State Nature Conservancy. Yes. And the title of your presentation is Implementation and Evaluation of Ecosystem Services in Slovakia. And the project is Príroda pre všetkých. In translation, I think this is something like a nature for everyone.
Yes,
okay.
I will tell it. Okay, so good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So this is the last one presentation. Don't worry, it will be one point shorter, and it has lots of pictures and less text. My name is Michal Šutriepka, and I'm a project coordinator of the Slovak Life Integrated Project, known as Príroda pre všetkých, which in English means Nature for All. Before I start presenting selected project activities, I would like to mention that our project is very similar to the Czech Life project One Nature in many areas. Because of these similarities, our cooperation has been ongoing since the very beginning of our implementation. Our Czech partners have also been mentors to us. They have shared their experiences and they continue to provide us with advice to these days. I would like to thank to this project team for all this great support. Our project is a 10-year initiative spanning until 2030. Our partnership brings together 8 organizations, including state institutions, NGOs, and also 1 university. We operate in 5 main demonstrations areas across Slovakia. As you can see on the timeline, we are currently in phase 3, which could be the peak of our restoration and field activities. The first activity presented is peatland restoration. We have established 2 specialized management centers and have secured the necessary technical equipment and the machinery for active restoration in the field. Ongoing field work is mainly focused on removing invasive woody plants because these trees act as water pumps and drying out these habitats. Another challenge is the introduction and restoration of different types of agroforestry systems. In Polana project area, we have successfully restored traditional juniper pastures now used for the sheep grazing. As you can see in the last picture, a large amount of shrubs has been removed at this location. In this project area, we are not only restoring traditional pastures, we are also establishing agroforestry systems based on the traditional fruit trees. For this purpose, local varieties have been mapped and own orchard has been created to cultivate grafted trees used to establish these agroforestry systems. Different type of agroforestry systems is being implemented in the Zahore project area. Here we work directly with private farmers to plant native trees on their own arable land. The restoration of water habitats represents several complicated activities that we are currently implementing. This involves the construction of systems to ensure the inflow of water to important project sites in the Natura project area. The first site, Taiba, it's one of the most important habitat of European pond turtle in eastern Slovakia. The second site, Tice, aims to restore the water supply to the Tice river branch system. You can see this project site in the background, and the small photos shows our project equipment during the preparation of the channel, which is being transformed from the drainage channel to back to the water supply channel. In the Zahore project area, we are reconnecting 2 Morava river meanders, which are artificially separated in the past. At this project site, we are also removing artificial drainage channels that cause the drying out of this area and damage the target habitats. We are also working on grassland habitats. Here are some photos from the Tabrutska site, which is close to the habitat of the European pond turtle. We are restoring here xerothermic habitats and also this turtle nesting site in this place. In our project, we are also restoring overgrown mountain meadows, trying to stabilize several rare species of plants and animals. For example, we target the Tesium plant in Polana or the apple butterfly in Moranská Planina National Park. We are implementing a sensitive approach in our forest. We use the horses for habitat restoration to minimize disturbance in critical capercaillie habitats. We have also secured the protection of a rare Carpathian longhorn beetle on over 100 hectares of forest. Protecting Natura 2000 sites requires good data. Our 80 experts have mapped the sites over the past 3 years. They have successfully added more than 16,000 new records to the national database. Of course, our project also involves regular monitoring of target species and restored habitats by project activities. An interesting part of our project is addressing the issue of climate change. We are comparing current data with historical data in order to propose measures needed to mitigate its negative impacts. The project also addresses the connectivity of Natura 2000 sites with the aim of identifying ecological corridors and proposing connectivity maps of Natura 2000 sites in Slovakia. In the project, we evaluate currently used management plans. We are setting up the methodology for evaluating them with the aim of improving new plans. On the graphic diagram, you can see the prepared conceptual model for evaluation of this management effectiveness. Public engagement is an important part of our project. A very interesting program is aimed at the youngest generation. It involves more than 100 kindergartens teaching children about the Natura 2000 network through movement. However, I want to point out that this is just one example of our broader strategy. We implement a wide range of activities. We have specialized programs for university students, excursions for primary and secondary school, and also events for the general public. Here you can see some examples of materials used during the meetings with the public or materials used in the schools. The values of the Natura 2000 network can be assessed through ecosystem services. My colleague who had prepared a very interesting separate presentation for this project action couldn't come today, so let me apologize to him. But if you are interested to this topic, I put his contact email address on this slide, so you can contact him directly. If you are interested in more details from our project, I highly encourage you to visit our English website. This website is here on the slide, and you will find much more data and stories and details from our project. So it's all from me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Michal. And we have a space for questions. It's really nice to see a presentation with practical examples. What is the impact of such a project in a practice? So, but if you don't want to ask now, you can also send an email also to his colleague, Jan Černecký. Thank you very much, Michal. And it was the last presentation. And it's also the end of the conference today, which is not the end of the conference as a whole, because you will still have your field trips tomorrow. So let me remind you that you should be in the lobby of the hotel at 7:45 at the latest in order to join the buses for which you are registered. This is one thing. The second thing, let me remind you also that there is a dinner at 7 o'clock in this hotel for all of you. And is there any question or comment at the end? That's some general. If not, let me thank you for your attention during the whole day. I hope that it was interesting for you. You have a full package of materials, presentations, and also the conference back. And the last comment is, please don't forget to give us headphones. And thank you very much.